Thank you for your testimony. You have framed it as, in the context of your expertise in the Midwest. I come from the Northwest. Oregon is one of 17 states where manufacturing makes up more than 10% of employment. It is a source of good paying, stable jobs, except when those jobs go to Mexico or Asia, as they routinely have following the challenge in the rest of the nation. But as you think about the challenges and dynamics in the Midwest, and then recognize that other regions have some different factors at work, what do you see if you're looking at the Northwest? What makes the Northwest manufacturing economy different than the area that you spend most of your time on in terms of the Midwest? And are there insights we can draw about some of the challenges around the rest of the country?
Well, certainly when I think of the Northwest, I think of a very big part of that is the aviation industry. And that has been one of our great opportunities for exports, as it has tended to dominate, especially recently, in terms of our exports to the rest of the world. The point about some of these trends that we see in terms of employment, these are issues. The productivity that we've been experiencing in the United States is not solely a U.S. phenomena. We're seeing productivity growth happening all around the world, and similar trends with regard to the loss of employment. In fact, in a study that was put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics 5 years ago, it's hard to get data from China, but there was a study that was put out 5 years ago by BLS, which looked at manufacturing trends between 1995 and 2002, and their estimates are that China went from having 98 million workers in manufacturing in 1995 down to 83 million in 2002. So in essence, China lost the same number of jobs in manufacturing that we have in manufacturing. These and we can add to that list Brazil, Russia, and so forth. These productivity trends are happening all around the world on the employment share.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm not sure that got really to the heart of the distinctions in the regions, but one thing I think that is in common across the country is that you have a workforce that is less prepared in areas such as welding, machine operation, and so forth. It was just about everybody I knew took metal shop and wood shop in either middle school or high school, and added to that was the fact that we grew up in building things in garages. And neither of those are true now. The classes in school are gone, and the kids are on the computers rather than utilizing tools. And at times that's used as an explanation of why firms are choosing to go abroad, but just not enough folks trained in the crafts, if you will, or interested in the crafts. And do you see that as a real factor? And if so, what do you suggest we do on that?
Well, in your example with regard to welders, when industry was doing, the machinery industry was doing quite well several years ago as commodity prices began to move up quite sharply, we were hearing about a dearth of available workers who really had the skills for welding. And things have softened up clearly. While things have improved, we're still quite weak. But nonetheless, these kinds of skilled type of jobs, there tends to be shortages. And what we can do is to be foster greater amounts of skills training. Again through some of these technical schools, apprenticeship programs, and just allow firms themselves to train their workforce.
Well, I'll conclude with one last question, and that is up through about the mid-1970s, as productivity increased, the wages of working Americans increased. And at about that time, those two curves started dramatically diverging. And you would think with this increase in productivity that you're talking about, we would have a proportional increase in wages. But as you look at the divergence in those two curves, the upward path on productivity and the flat line on compensation to working families. Any insights on that?
Well, I share your concern with regard to the real increase in wages that have been taking place. Again, to get back to the education side, it clearly we've seen over time that there are rewards to greater amounts of education. Again, when you look at the differentials between obtaining a college degree, associate degree, or even technical training, there are definitely rewards. So education is a big key to continued advancement. So again, I would encourage those type of things. The only other thing I would just highlight is that one of the benefits of this surge of productivity has been the ability of the goods that most American prices of those vehicles have actually fallen by roughly 0.4% each and every year for the past 10 years, making those products more affordable to the average American.
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask one thing? Could you repeat again, Mr. Strauss, what you said about the workforce size in China actually declining as well within the manufacturing sector?
Yeah, there was a report that was put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics back in 2005 that employment in China peaked at 98 million. In
manufacturing.
In manufacturing in 1995. Keep in mind the size of our entire workforce is 140 some odd million. So this is 98 million in manufacturing, and by 2002 it had fallen down to 83 million. In fact, it fell even further to 80 million in 2000 because of the Asian crisis, but then it bounced back up to 83 million. But nonetheless, we're seeing these downward trends around the world.